are live. So, welcome to episode 300. That's 300 of An American Werewolf. I am Michael Martin, the American Werewolf. And am I a fan of this movie? That will be determined. In the house tonight, we've got Michael James, Divine Willer's YouTube channel. What's happening, man? Good to see you again.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me back, Michael. Good to see John, and I look forward to speaking about this film tonight.
Indeed. And we've got John K. Alvarez. Who is Keanu's dialect coach. So congratulations on that. That certainly is an asterisk on your CV. And thank you for taking a minute here to shoot the breeze about it.
If you heard him before I worked with him, he was very nasal.
So that's not a problem anymore. So now we know who we can thank for that one, and we are better. We are better for it. Thank you very much. So this is episode 300, and if you're wondering why, as I was saying before we went on, why this isn't a larger panel, although we had a good-sized panel for $2.99, it's because I didn't pick a popular movie. I picked a movie that I wanted to watch, and I've got feedback happening somewhere. Have you got somebody else got? Well, never mind. I can hear myself. Okay. I picked a movie that is not part of the Coen Brothers because we're covering the Coen Brothers for March. I picked something that would represent 300, and John came up with the idea. Well, maybe we should cover Zack Snyder's 300. But for my own reasons, I'm going to kick that one down the can. I kicked the can on that one down the road a little bit. And I wanted to pick something that would generate some discussion. So we're going to have a smaller discussion, but I think a good discussion nevertheless. We are talking about Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. If you guys are ready to go, shall we get it going?
Into the night.
Boogie.
Ready.
So, Bram Stoker's Dracula is a 1992 American Gothic horror film produced and directed by Francis Ford Coppola and written by James V. Hart, based on the eponymous 1897 novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. The film features an ensemble cast led by Gary Oldman, Winona Ryder, Anthony Hopkins, and Keanu Reeves. Set in 19th century England and Romania, it follows Count Dracula, played by Oldman, a vampire who falls in love with Mina Murray, played by Ryder, the fiancée of the solicitor, Jonathan Harker, played by Keanu. when Dracula begins terrorizing Mina's friends, Professor Abraham Van Helsing, played by Hopkins, an expert in vampirism, is summoned to bring an end to his reign of terror. This is among the more odd Dracula interpretations that I've seen, and I have mixed feelings about it because it has some melodrama. And there's the argument that Dracula is not a romantic character. He's a very sexual character, perhaps because he's kind of a parasite, but it's not set up for love stories. But nevertheless, I've owned this on VHS. I've owned it on DVD. I've owned it on Blu-ray. I have a copy here. I want to like this movie. And over the years, I've even bagged it quite publicly. And now I'm coming to a point again, perhaps, where I'm coming around to enjoy it a bit more than I once did. And that's kind of the conversation I want to have. I don't need people to agree with me. Maybe you think it sucks. Maybe you think it's okay. Maybe you think it's great. Let's start out with Michael James, because this is currently streaming on Pluto TV.
Pluto TV, which is awesome, which is one of my favorite. I live on Pluto and Tubi, and I'm so glad you picked a movie on these free, wonderful apps that are out there. Okay, I will start. So I have never seen this movie before. Came out in 1992, and I sat down. I was very much looking forward to it. It's really right in my wheelhouse: spiritual warfare, demonic curses, the character, the pact with the devil. So what's going on here? And so I start off watching it, and I like the cinematography is awesome. I love everything about the background. I love where we start. It looks interesting and like an intriguing story is about to be told. But it only took me about 9 or 10 minutes to realize that this movie was complete and utter bullshit, Michael. And I just could not. First and foremost, the lack of story. The exposition, they had to, literally voiceovers telling us what's going on and what these characters think because they're not showing it. That's the first one. It's very hard to even care about these characters or understand what was going on. The tone of it, the gimmicky goofiness of it, and this very much, I thought, outdated 90s hip sort of Friends kind of vibe to it. And I just got more and more of an impression of Francis Ford Coppola, an aging, irrelevant man, trying so hard to be sexy and hip and 90s and relevant. And I just felt like he missed the piece, missed the tone very badly. I don't know what this is. Is this horror? It's not scary. It's not funny. It's not romantic. It's not interesting. And I have a ton of questions to go through as to why these things happen. Okay. Why is this beast having sex with Lily? Why? And why did that even happen? How did he become young? All these interesting concepts they don't explore. Why does he throw a sword at a cross? And now he's a vampire. How did that happen? There's 1,000 different interesting things to explore here, but I think they just do gimmicky visual stuff, which is a hit or miss, and it takes you right out of it because you're not engrossed in the story at all. So I'll stop there, and we'll see how I might have some other more. I like Winona Ryder. I think she's a great actress. I think she's the only one who gives some stability and some realism to this. I thought her character was interesting. Anthony Hopkins, I think, sleepwalks through this whole thing. I think, he's the greatest actor who takes a paycheck and will do anything, Anthony Hopkins. And real big disappointment. Was it fun at times? Sure, it was fun at times. Winona Ryder and Anthony Hopkins making out of nowhere. It's like, well, that's not out of character because they both don't have any characters. It was just freaking fun and hilarious. But really, without a story, it was really hard to keep my attention or to really feel anything about this. And let me pass it over to John.
Now hosting the show, we've got Michael James. Hold on a second. This is an asshat. Hang back for a second, all right? Jeez. All right, give the rest of us some oxygen. Thank you. All right, John K. Alvarez, who is Keanu's dialect coach, so I know he's taking what you said quite personally.
I'll survive.
Yeah. Somehow we'll stumble through. But no, because it's an interesting point of view. John, what do you got for us? Are you in the same wheelhouse? Are you the opposite, somewhere in the middle?
I'm somewhere in the middle, I think. I've come to the conclusion over the years I've become pretty much a Dracula snob. Michael, I know you know this. Michael, American Werewolf, not Michael James. When I was working at Cape May Stage, a director was doing a show and he was reading Dracula for the first time. And he adapted it to a one-man show called Dracula, the Journal of Jonathan Harker. And he made me read it because I was doing the lights and sound. And I read it, and I found the book a very good Victorian style Gothic horror.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites.
But every time that they try to do a version of Dracula, he's got charisma, and he's enchanting. And then you had Frank Langella do it in the 70s, where they said, "Oh, he's kind of sexy because he had the open shirt." And he was, not Bela Lugosi. Then it came with this one, and I think it fell into it tried to follow other ones that preceded it, where they took Gothic stories and modernized them. And I mean, for Michael, I'm gonna stick one werewolf and the other one Michael now. The reason why they did the voiceover is because it was told in letters, in journal pieces.
Right.
And so that's how they were doing it in that case.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
No, I said that's an important thing, Mike. If you haven't, Michael James, if you haven't read the book, it's told through letters and newspaper clippings and things like that, and journal entries. So Dracula's not in it very much at all.
No.
What's happening is told by inference. You, as the reader, intuit that what's happening here is because of the Count. But go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
Oh no, not at all. It's if you look at the stuff years prior to it, you had The Fly with Jeff Goldblum and Gina Davis, which was a horror story that they romanticized. They put a romance in it. The musical Phantom of the Opera.
Right.
Andrew Lloyd Webber turned it down when he first read it because he said, "I don't do horror," and the guy said, "Reread it. It's a love story." I mean, they were the Lost Boys is another good example of it, or what's Edward Scissorhand, which was a variation of Frankenstein. They were taking these old style of stories and putting it with modern day romance. I agree with you, Michael. There is a datedness to it now. I do feel like it's very much Friends, but when you read it, you see how they all pull together. I'll go on more with it, Michael, as we go along. But I have to admit that after not seeing it for a few years, when I saw it again, I said, you know what, this wasn't as bad as I put it in my head. Is it perfect? No, but it's better than I thought it was.
I remember seeing this in the theater and not thinking much of it, and then growing to like it, and then growing to not like it, and now I'm coming back to enjoying it again. It's not something that's ever going to be one of my favorite Dracula films. And formally, I mean, this is actually true. Dracula is the most interpreted character in all of English literature. It's not Shakespeare, any Shakespearean characters or anything like that. This movie was incredibly popular. It had a $40 million budget. It made about $200 million. So by today's standards, that would be about $500 million for a Dracula movie. And the equivalent for the budget would be about $100 million. So incredibly popular. Divisive on opinions. Some people think it's like fantastic. Some people think this is not a Dracula movie. This completely sucks. I've had the spectrum of opinions. But it's funny because I ended up thinking of this book. And so why is it so popular if so many people are divided on it? And why does it make so much money? There's a book I was told about from watching a Jordan Peterson stream called A Billion Wicked Thoughts. And it's based on about 4,000 scientific studies in the search for sex on the internet. So and I'm not advocating for searching for sex on the internet, but long story short, for men, basically when they say that all men want the same thing, it's basically true. 85% of men break down into only 13 different categories for what they're looking for. I think when you get to 90 or 95%, it breaks down into maybe 30%, and then the remaining percentage is, whatever that is. But for women and their search, it's more about words. It's more about stories. Mm-hmm. It's more about, the printed thing. So years ago, maybe 10 years ago, when that 50 Shades of Grey thing came out, women were losing their minds reading that story. I have no idea what it's about, but they just absolutely lost their minds. The number one narrative, though, that all women that they love so much is the Beauty and the Beast narrative. Women want to tame the beast. And so is this movie the type of movie that you don't have to drag your girlfriend or your wife to necessarily? Oh, wait a minute. There's something actually that, I would enjoy here. She's trying to, this character that has historically been just this evil parasite, this monster, is now sort of this tragic, sympathetic character. Is that what put butts in the seat?
I don't know, but I tell you, I don't think that's a bad idea to have, a sexy Dracula, a Dracula love story. I don't feel that they told that story. I feel like it was definitely unearned. Maybe piecing it together with other Draculas and previous information, you could get that story. But I felt like there's an encounter, a brief encounter, and then 45 minutes later, they're crying, saying they love each other. I don't feel that was earned or set up or properly, or that story was properly told at all. I think they didn't really have the balls to do that all the way, and they just failed at telling that story.
It sets up. It sort of sets up, and I was looking it up, and it says it did not originate the concept of the sympathetic villain in general, nor even the idea of a sympathetic or tragic vampire. The notion of complex, empathetic antagonists has deep roots in literature and early vampire folklore, so on and so forth. It says the film popularized and mainstreamed it, though. A highly, tragic Dracula in a major Hollywood production, significant ripple effect on later vampire stories, like the whole Twilight thing is all about, a sympathetic vampire character. Are they great stories? No, I saw the first movie. It's terrible. Did it put tons of asses in the seats? And did it make tons and tons of money? Absolutely. Is it one of the great, love stories of all time? Is it Romeo and Juliet, or is it The English Patient, or is it, something like that? Absolutely not. Is it popular, though? Yeah.
What they should have done is they were going to make this into a love story. And this is the one thing I'll give credit to the Twilight series. The Twilight series did it on their own. They took the story of Dracula and tried to make it into a romance, or a modern day romance for the 90s. And my response is they should have approached it, if they were going to make it a romance, like Sense and Sensibility, another book from that era type deal. Michael, you're right. I love the fact when you described it as Beauty and the Beast. The problem was the Beast isn't the hero. He's the villain, and should have always been played that way. And they didn't. They tried
John, you're looking at it as a man. You're not looking at it as a woman. She can fix him, John. She can fix him. That's what.
But that's the point. She didn't even know about him.
It doesn't make a difference. Yeah. It's like the woman who says, she's sapiosexual, and then all she dates are like convicted felons. It's the modern dating world. They were 30 years ahead of the curve on this one, actually. And I say
they didn't even, like the whole beginning was never even in the book.
No.
Him,
he's on his way to Transylvania, and that's the story. Hold on a second. We got some comments here. I want to get it. We got Slasher Fred. What's happening, man? I think this movie really dived into the classic novel. Yeah, it's a lot of it is, like I said, journal articles and newspaper clippings, and watching the movie, you notice that even it is a Dracula movie. If it is a Dracula movie, it has some homages to the classic Nosferatu, like Dracula's shadow on the wall and the Count rising from the coffin. If you guys ever watched the original band trailer with only the blood on screen, it has flash images from the movie. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, I did see that one.
I think that Dracula appearing as the coachman was an homage to the classic Universal. And he says, "Hey, John, watching the movie, I noticed how the hairstyles of Lucy and Mina were kind of switched because I always thought that Lucy was the brunette and Mina was the redhead." Now, I mean,
I've seen her also played as a blonde. Lucy was played as a blonde because it was different than some of the other women at the time.
Here's the thing. I mean, you've got, people say Dracula is a very sexual character. Tons of sex in this movie. You've got, Lucy getting pile drived, right there by a werewolf. I'm like, okay. I remember the first time I saw that. I'm like, okay. I've never seen that in a Dracula movie before. You've got a naked Monica Bellucci as one of the brides. Like we've talked many times on this show about how important the brides are. Three of the most beautiful brides I've ever seen. 25-year-old Monica Bellucci, unbelievable. And yet, yeah, I mean, like Mike was saying, I watched it all the way through, and I'm like, there's really only about 15 or 20 minutes of melodrama here. Is it enough? Is it enough to put everybody off, or at least to put the three of us off? I didn't mind it because I'd seen it so many times this time. I was just like, well, it's not that much. I tried to look at it objectively,
right?
But that's not the case for everybody.
I think you have that 20 minutes of melodrama, and then you have a lot of gratuitous violence and really, really sexy scenes and just stuff that doesn't really fit or tell a narrative. I think to make the melodrama work, a more consistent story to bring us into it could have helped that. And even these violent things could have been, I think, a lot more effective if there was more part of the story. For example, we have his brides come out, and you have this very visual sexual scene, and they're going after Keanu Reeves, and then he comes out, and then he brings a baby, right?
That's from the book. That's from the book.
It's right. All right. So, okay, take the book. Just look at it as a film and what kind of story they're telling. So you have this really interesting piece, like, so he pulls a baby right out of this very erotic scene. It's psychologically disturbing and interesting, and then they just cut away. Like, where do you get the baby? What's the baby for?
No, that's not in. That's loyal to the. Just so you understand, and I'm not saying you have to.
Yeah, I get it. But if you're going, I think there's a difference between. I think when you make a movie, you tell a story, and when you try to pay all these homages and you try to touch all these bases on a book and you try to please everybody, then do your own thing, you just have something that's incoherent. And I think as it stands by itself, they don't tell a story here.
Go ahead, John.
Well, no, they were from the story in the book. They got the baby to feed the wives. He was bringing her a fresh blood, so to speak. That's why later on, when it was Lucy, children were missing or babies were missing.
Yeah,
the blue they were going for the fresher blood.
The blue for lady.
But then again, I know that from my own personal. That's why I was able to get past it in the movie.
Right. Yeah.
I truly think if they tried to tell the movie or the book, I think they would have had a better story. I really do think they would have. I think they did a lot of stuff to, like when they were reading the Kama Sutra. That's not in the book, and I kind of got it why they did it.
They were reading Arabian Nights.
Yeah, Arabian Nights. I'm sorry. When they were doing that wasn't in the book, but it was. I could see why they were doing it. They were trying to set the women up being foolish or simple, and when it comes to
sex,
but after I really felt that they took a crack at doing it because I felt everything else was done. Like this image you're showing here, Mike, that was pretty much described in the book.
Yeah,
little flamboyant on the red, but still very much like how Dracula came and met Jonathan Harker. The door opens up. He's in the dark, and the light comes in. Hello, I'm Dracula. Welcome to my castle, and brings him in.
What did you think of Oldman's performance?
You know what? He ate scenery, and but he's Dracula. He has to.
Yeah. He does. I don't think he has the best script to work with, but for what he had, and I've always said this, even when I bagged the movie. I thought Oldman's performance was solid. You have to work with what you have. And I know he had some problems with Coppola on the set about specific things, and Coppola was just too big for him back then and kind of rode him over. But yeah, it was a pretty solid performance.
And it was funny because I'm sorry, Michael, go ahead.
I enjoyed his performance as well. I liked it. It was interesting, and it was over the top at times.
Yeah.
But I think some things he was set up to fail with. I thought the shadow was really gimmicky and a little over the top. I think when in the first 10 minutes when he starts screaming and throwing a sword around, that was, it was difficult and angsty at times. But you did appreciate him as the character, despite all these things that just weren't working out for him.
To have seen any of those effects, and they are all practical effects. Coppola didn't use any CGI. This is filmed almost entirely on a film set. So, I mean, the cinematography, I think, is gorgeous. I think the set design is spectacular. But to have seen those, I remember seeing those shadow movements 30 years ago in '92. I had never seen anything like that before. Like John says now, I think it's a little dated. And they go, like, if you've seen Robert Eggers' Nosferatu or more modern vampire or supernatural flicks, they've found ways to shoot better camera angles. But for 1992, there was nothing like that at the time. I remember going jump with your brother Paul and a couple of friends back then to go see this, and I was like, holy shit, like I just never did anything like that before.
But it goes back to also when you get a chance, when you see Gary Oldman, like when Keanu Reeves cuts himself shaving. And it's the scene they show all the time where he turns around and licks the blade. It's not so much licking the blade, it's his reaction to it later, where it's like somebody who hasn't had a drink in so long or has, done drugs and so long. It's that addiction. And he shows it in a moment. And that's Oldman. That's purely him bringing that out. I love the fact that they did a lot of stuff that were very old school. Like when Keanu Reeves is first sitting at the table and all of a sudden everything goes black except for him and then he is black. I mean, that's stuff from Hammer films. They really did try to do a tribute to everything in it.
What did you think of the idea that he was, this is the first one that I can recall of Dracula films going all the way back to Murnau's Nosferatu, where they actually touched on the Vlad the Impaler character. Like he actually is that guy who impaled thousands and thousands of Muslims, for miles. Like I remember, reading about him. Did that add any significance, or no big deal?
I'm sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
Let's get Mike back in.
Sorry about that.
I wanted to know a lot more about that. I mean, I wanted to know more about that. I wanted that to be explored. And I just felt it was just an add-on. It was briefly mentioned in the beginning, then Anthony Hopkins rambles about it later on. Again, it just seems like a cornucopula of different ideas that never really weave together in a satisfying way. But I did like that attempt. It was
I think it assumes that the average person who probably went to see it, and I'm not arguing with you, but I think it assumes that the average person who went to see this, at least back then, understands the cursory of, who he was or who he was supposed to be. And if you ever get a chance, Mike, you should read the book. It's a fantastic read. It's not that long, probably about 300 pages.
Yeah,
where he's talking about his ancestor fighting the Turks, and the Muslims, and like you understand that he's talking about himself. But he's talking to Harker in the castle about his family history, and you realize the entire family history, he's talking about himself because he's hundreds of years old. Let's talk about. Go ahead, John.
Oh no, I thought they also the whole Vlad the Impaler guy, who they said Stoker based him on. Didn't he do this too? He lined up his men on pikes like this, or the
anybody that would piss him off, he would impale them. He was quite the monster, and in real life, it's funny because in modern Romania, he's considered a national hero today
because he fought the Turks.
He fought the Turks, and he blocked the Ottoman Empire, and because of that, Romania is not a Muslim country today. He was so severe I mean, they were like, whoa, what the hell is going on with this guy? I think historically, Michael James, maybe you can validate this. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm reading a book on him right now, actually. And he was one of the only people who answered the Pope's call at the time for another crusade against the Muslims coming in. Nobody else was interested. I think France and England were in the middle of the 100 Years' War and just were like, yeah, we're busy right now. He was the only guy, I think, at the time to step forward. Talking about the original Vlad Tepes.
Right. I can't speak to that, but I can add that, towards those later crusades, because there was many of them, they lost popularity and they didn't have the political pull to pull up their fifth and sixth crusade like they did in the beginning one. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, when a sequel goes that long.
Yeah, that's a long story. That's a long story. So let's get into our boy Keanu. Now, I've been a fan of Keanu since Bill and Ted, and he's not Anthony Hopkins. But I mean, he's done a lot. And if you've seen Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing. It seems like for him, it's taken a long time to find the roles that were right for him. And so in the meanwhile, before he found his sort of stride with The Matrix and then John Wick and then a couple of other things here and there, we got Keanu in these sorts of things. And this was one of the major criticisms of the film. His non-expressive, performance where like all these things are happening in the castle and his face just never seems to really change, as opposed to anybody else who will be having a bowel movement, at the table watching some of this freaky stuff go on. I'm sorry, John. That's not too pointed.
No, I've over the years, I've actually wound up defending Keanu. Not in the beginning. In the beginning, I was there. I was saying the same thing. But the more and more I watched, I'm like, well, what the hell did you expect him to do? He was keeping the stiff upper lip attitude. I forgave his English accent ever since I really fell in love with George C. Scott doing Christmas Carol with no accent playing Ebenezer Scrooge. And I could get past that. If he went the other way, he would be criticized for playing it too much over the top.
Perhaps.
I really don't think he was going to win either way. To me, that's purely me.
And I would add. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
No, go right ahead, sir.
Yeah, I didn't have a big problem with him. It didn't. I thought he was likable enough. If he played it more expressive, it's kind of hard when you have a character like Dracula and then they're both chewing up the set. And he just kind of did his thing, and he was not very interesting, but he didn't really strike me as, oh, this is horrible performance. I thought it was just average.
And let's be honest, Jonathan Harker is a character. He's a real estate salesman.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
He's not like Quincy, who was a cowboy. He's not like, he's not that adventurer.
Yeah.
So to speak.
So it says at the first cast reading, Coppola had the principal actors read the entire original novel aloud over 2 days to immerse them in the source material. Oldman underwent intense transformations with multiple looks from historical Vlad to elderly Count, demonic forms, and more, using elaborate makeup and prosthetics. His scream in the opening impaling scene was dubbed by punk singer Lux Interior of the Cramps. I didn't know that. Winona Ryder brought the script to Coppola after reading it, helping revive the project. She and Oldman had tension on set despite early friendliness, though Coppola ensured a safe environment. And the wedding scene between Mina and Harker was a reshoot at a real Greek Orthodox church in Los Angeles, performed by an actual priest, although they're not legally married. Costumes by Akio Ishioka were groundbreaking, theatrical, symbolic, read for sensuality, and award-winning. Many are now displayed at Coppola's winery in Northern California. What about Winona Ryder? Mike, you were saying you liked her performance.
Yeah, she was very realistic, likable.
Hmm.
You just believed her as being naive. You believed her um, as a real person. I think when it begins to fall off the rails is, why is she in love with Dracula? How did that actually happen?
Hmm.
It becomes a real problem with that.
That's a
Um,
great question. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mike.
yeah, and I think that's again that's what this suffers from. This might remind you of the great character from the book, but as it stands alone, this
Hmm.
character doesn't make a lot of sense at all, even though she's pleasant enough and
That's a
endearing.
question I wanted to ask, and I'll get your opinion on it. Is she, and I ask both of you, is she the reincarnation of the wife?
To
And
me,
there's
that's too
no
big of a leap.
definitive answer, huh?
To me, that was too big of a leap. To me, she just happened to
Yeah.
look like the wife.
And so, did he project that onto her? Because I was watching it this time, and
Hmm.
he does that thing where, like, when they're talking about the descriptions, and I'm wondering if he's,
Hmm.
I don't know, whatever you call it, casting some sort of spell over her to make her
Hmm.
believe or see, he's projecting this into her. Because I just saw Luc Besson. Luc Besson just did the guy who directed Leon the Professional and The Fifth Element, when
Hmm.
he did that movie, Joan of Arc, The Messenger. He just
Hmm.
did another Dracula movie, and it's almost exactly like this one. And I
Hmm.
enjoyed it. And in that one, I think the bride Elizabeth is the reincarnation, and so that was what I was wondering about this one. Mike, what did you think?
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. Now that you mention it, I mean, I can see that now. I mean, if that's what they were going for, I would appreciate something a little bit more explicit to let us know that's what the hell's going on. Um, but now I think about awkwardness for screaming in Romanian, like she was screaming, and like, but that might be a sign that it was her. That might have been a great way to go if they kind of leaned into that, but I don't think they really did.
I think this is without question for me, though, and I wasn't a fan of hers necessarily in the '90s, but like you forget how like stunningly beautiful she was.
Hmm.
I mean, look at her; she is just
Yeah.
Hmm.
like, oh my god, like that is just unbelievably like natural beauty. This was before the age of Botox and fillers and all the things that women are doing today. Just a
Hmm.
pure natural, just tiny little gorgeous brunette. Fantastic. Um, the casting of beautiful women, there were no shortage of that with her friend Lucy,
Hmm.
Sadie Frost in the role as Lucy. No shortage of beautiful women there. So certainly didn't fall short with that. Trying to think what else.
No, visually, and that really helped the uh,
Hmm.
the visuals. They pulled off all of the sexy stuff, and they
Hmm.
mix it with the violence really well. One thing that we didn't mention was that mishmash that Francis Ford Coppola did with the Orthodox wedding cut to all
Hmm.
the violence, which is very similar to the baptism of the Godfather, right?
Hmm.
Another sacramental
Hmm.
being compared with the violence was very effective, and that's a really unique, beautiful,
Right.
filled with imagery, that Orthodox wedding scene. That was visually astounding. I mean, there's a lot of visually astounding things going on
Hmm.
here.
I think this did win 3 Oscars. Like it literally, I
Yeah.
forget. I had to figure out what the Oscars were for. You guys go ahead for a second. I want to see if I can dig that out.
I actually enjoyed it. What I think also made it work was the fact that Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder, and I hate using this because it's very cliche,
Hmm.
but they had that chemistry with each
Mm.
other. You could tell they did kind of enjoy being with each other. They weren't just let's get two pretty people and put them together.
Hmm.
They were like let's get two people, and they played off each other well, as it were.
Is this? I'm going to ask John because I can't ask Mike because he hasn't read it. Is this the most accurate interpretation according to the book? I mean, certainly it veers off into something else,
Yeah,
melodrama.
but for the majority, it's close to the book.
It's very
It,
close.
it really is only because, I mean, if you read the book is an interesting book, but it's not captivating. You can see it was more of its time period,
Yeah,
but it was really close to it. They were adding stuff into it, I think, to give it some spice.
yeah. Like I
But
said, when you read the book, he's barely in it.
Yeah, he's barely in it.
He's barely.
And I think that's what makes him more
horrifying.
interesting as a character. Yeah, horrifying, appealing as a character. He appears like the monster in the night.
Less is more.
Yeah.
This one, 3 Oscars for best costume design, best makeup. I could see that, and best sound editing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I could see
some of the sound editing stuff was really cool.
Yeah,
the heads coming off were very effective.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah. I love the fact that they entered the room and he's in the room, but they can't see him. Mm-hmm. Like when he's biting Lucy, and you just see the blood sort of moving toward. You see like the mouth. I guess it's from his mouth or whatever, like hitting moving across the room as the door is wide open, but it's him, and they can't see it. There were a couple of scenes like that. That's fucking cool, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
They did a lot of stuff right cinematically.
Yeah.
It's just some of the stuff that got me was just like the storytelling.
Yeah, it's not the best script. It's not the best script. I don't know if they could. Here's a question: if they had gotten rid of the melodrama, and he was just stalking Lucy like in the book, it would have been the book.
It would have been the book.
So would that have been bad?
As is, I don't think they would even hold up. If you take out the melodrama, I don't think it would hold up as presented, as cut, as edited, as screenplayed, as told. It just wouldn't hold up. You have again the tone, the goofiness, the no coherent stuff. You don't really are engrossed with the plot or understand what's going on, and you just have a lot of these visually appealing stuff, but without a story, without psychological impact, it really falls flat, and it gets easily outdated. I think 34 years later, because good stories transcend time. Gimmicky stuff might be popular when they come out, but it just loses with age.
And I truly think, Michael, that if you did it as the book, it's going to get compared to the Hammer films more than anything else. You're going to get compared to Christopher Lee and that whole 9 yards, and where Van Helsing was more of a crusader as opposed to being a professor type deal. That might have kind of tinged it a little bit, for lack of a better term, because Christopher Lee did a great job in his interpretation of Dracula type deal.
And I would also add too, is just to remind us that film is a different genre. It should be done like a film and be a film story. And when the book should be changed, and but what's in that book, is not going to be in a visual presentation for two in an effective way if it doesn't make major changes. So I think if they even did follow it it would just be a really bad movie, most likely.
Really? I've never heard that before. Okay, that's an interesting take. Hold on a second. Let's keep going with some of the comments here. Anthony Hopkins appeared in the classic Mel Brooks uncredited produced movie The Elephant Man. 3 years later, Mel Brooks had spoofed this movie in Dracula Dead and Loving It. Yes. Now, if I had shown that, Eric and Ryan would have been here. They would have been breaking the fucking door down to get in here. Bad taste, motherfuckers. All right, this movie had the classic line, "List of the Children of the Night," with music they make.
That's a good line.
Yeah. Did you know that before Bela Lugosi was cast as Dracula, Lon Chaney Sr. was supposed to play the role, but he had passed away before the production began. I think the original Nosferatu was inspired by the famous Black Plague. Yeah, I think he's referenced as the Nosferatu is referenced as a plague, hence all the rats. Did you know that the main theme music to this movie was later used in the trailer for The Mummy? No, I
didn't know that.
How
about that?
Tom Waits is playing Renfield. What about that? If you know who Tom Waits is, a very famous rock and roll star. I didn't recognize him at the time, but there he is putting on an interesting performance. Yeah, Renfield's usually a pretty ignorable character, unless you get to like the Lugosi one with Dwight Fry, where he does the that classic thing. But Tom Waits holding it down a little bit. I liked it.
And it was right in his wheelhouse.
Something half crazy. Some half crazy old man. Yeah, it works perfectly. No problem.
I think they shot the thing where he had all the bugs on the plate. And it was at lunchtime. That's what he was eating.
That sounds like Tom Waits. Yeah. So
I love this scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. She does a great. I thought that in a way she stole the scenes from Winona Ryder. Sadie Frost did. She's kind of the more outgoing of the two. She's a little sexualized. She's kind of an innocent flirt. She doesn't mean anything by it. But again, they're about to. Hold on, my dog's here. About to. No, I'm not going out. They're about to be exposed to something much darker. Mike, you disagree?
Right.
You look like.
She was
really
she's
like
a cute girl. I mean, cute girl. I liked how she played it. I liked the idea of a flirtatious character. She did that well. But I just had a hard time, again, watching this movie, saying, like, what does she have to do with freaking anything in this movie? Really, what does she have to do with anything? Why is the beast bopping her? She's just a friend of Winona Ryder. I mean, I couldn't understand what she had to do with the plot.
All right, but you're starting to stretch it now a little bit. Hold on, because this is just part of the classic storyline.
I understand,
but doesn't explain because he's a vampire and he feasts on beautiful women. And so he's looking at Harker's.
But why her out of all the beautiful women? I don't understand. Why her, and why does she happen to be the friend?
Because she was the girl next door.
Mike, well, you can't have movies then you'd be in a Stephen King novel where like every single thing is explained to you.
Well, yeah.
You have to be able to intuit a little bit. You have to be able to give some license for your own interpretation. But I mean, in the story, the first person he feasts on is Lucy, and that's what ends up bringing everybody together. Nobody can figure out why, because he finds out that Harker is going to marry Mina. He's got the place in Carfax, and he gets it from Harker that they're neighbors. He sees her, and so the first thing that he does when he goes to London is Lucy suddenly falls ill. Nobody knows why.
I thought that beat right there, the beat that gets Dracula to her initially, would have been helpful if that was spelled out. Like he saw her, he lusted for her, he was open to his temptation somehow. There's some kind of a beat missing that it went from.
That's who Dracula is.
Well, and he was actually feasting.
Yeah.
I mean, he was more animalistic than human.
Yeah, he's a werewolf. He's a damn werewolf in that one. Yeah.
When Mina, was gone, Lucy was there.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why, if you heard it when Keanu Reeves was home, he was buying up all the properties around it. Yeah. He wanted that isolation so people would be alone.
And he's also he's also spreading vampirism into the new world. Like this is his first step into the new world. So he's not just going to pick some street bum or like Jack the Ripper who was killing prostitutes. He's going for these elite level people that have the best blood. And
well, you gentlemen explained it very well. My point, my impression was I felt there was a beat missing, and if that was told more effectively and visually, it would have been a lot more of a story that kind of got you more into these characters. And
I would strongly. Next time I see you, I'll pick you up a copy. I think you should definitely read it because it's definitely a fun read.
Yeah.
I think everybody should read it, even people that aren't horror fans are fans of this story. So next time I'll see you, I'll find a copy over at Books A Million or something.
And I love this shot right here, like she's blending into the stone practically.
Yeah.
How she's not of this world. It's I love that. It's a Coppola knew how to shoot a shot.
It's beautiful. Yeah, beautiful.
Even with a script that was weak.
So, I mean, we get sorted to the end because we know what happens. I mean, in the end, they all coalesce around the death of Lucy, the return of Harker, the identification of what the problem exactly is or who the problem exactly is. And so they kill him.
Right.
In the book, Mike, it's not a spoiler. They discuss in those last few pages that he receives peace.
Right.
They're like, they say, There's a look of peace that I never could have imagined on a person's face. You know, he finally gets to rest. Because clearly throughout the book, he is not portrayed as a sympathetic character. And so what surprises everyone at his death is that, you know,
his humanity.
Yeah, his humanity is restored again. And finally, and maybe after 500 years, he can die.
And it was in the book, I mean, that's the one thing to change from the movie that I accepted, because I know how it ends in the book. The book is very a non-exciting ending. He gets stabbed and gets his throat cut and he dies.
Yeah, he gets stabbed with a Bowie knife, yeah.
You know, by Quincy, and Harker was the one who cut his throat to take his head off. It wasn't Mina.
Right.
They did that, I think, to add to the romance of it. And I bought that. That's the one I bought.
Yeah. But what did you think of that at the end? Was that a satisfying ending where he received some sort of peace, or because like in the average Dracula movie, you can't really kill him. You manage to destroy him. Christopher Lee, he fades into like a cigarette ash. With Bela Lugosi, you never really see it. He goes, you know, and then that's it. And then various other sort of grotesque ways that Dracula has been killed. Like I said, he's the most adaptable, the most adapted character in all of English literature. What did you think of the death scene?
Well, if you're asking me, fuck no, it wasn't satisfying.
I was going to say, did you want me to explain how he died? It's because he got stabbed in the heart, Mike, and then someone cut his throat. If they had explained it a little bit better, maybe I would have.
It wasn't sad. For me, it wasn't satisfying at all because, again, I felt it was very, very forced. I didn't really buy this affection towards him, and it just felt like something that was forced and not set up. And so did nothing for me.
All right. John.
And may I add something else in my notes that, and you know, and another piece is that end of the climax, we're trying, and I know here comes the ending. Anthony Hopkins hypnotizing her with a candle. Did anyone else find that kind of odd? All he just waves a candle in her face for 2 seconds and she's hypnotized. Anyone else?
Have you ever seen somebody get hypnotized? Didn't they used to do
in
it?
a candle with 2 seconds?
Yeah, with
I've
a
never
candle.
seen that before.
I was actually in a room where
you guys are thinking about this way too much.
But you know, I think it's
a Dracula movie. It's not Lawrence of Arabia.
But I think you know, if you pull yourself away from all the other Dracula material and just look at how odd this shit is, and how it's not really making a lot of sense here. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, John. Just my opinion.
It's a free country. It's a free country. We voted for this. We voted for this. You go right ahead. John, what did you think?
The ending had to go that way because of the way they've set it up. Was I happy with it? Well, yeah. Because if you're going to go make it the romantic ending or have romanticism in this movie, then yeah, she had to be the one to do it. You know. And the way they've always appealed the fact that at least he got not his so much humanity, but he became human when he died. The beast was gone. Yeah. Wherever that went, we can debate that for hours on end. Right. But he looked calm because he was human. He finally reverted back to what he was, and he died as a human being. But then I thought, like, I'm kind of glad they didn't do like a wrap-up scene, where Anthony Hopkins explains it to everybody and then looks in the camera, but who knows, maybe he'll be back, to set up a sequel.
I agree. That would have been worse.
They ended it like they really ended it in the book,
Abrupt.
There was a thing in the book where they talk about when Lucy and Jonathan having a baby, and they named the baby after everybody.
There's in the one that I saw just this past week with Luc Besson, it's obvious that Mina and Harker are not going to be able to reconcile after this. Too much has occurred. He goes to and like come to her like after Dracula dies, and he just looks at her. He knows instantly. He just walks right out of the room again.
Yeah,
like whatever they had is over. Like it's been too. It's just broken. Whatever standard. Sort of relationship that they had together. I didn't mind it. It's not, I don't really have. I just thought it was interesting because he gets some sort of peace, which is uncommon for Dracula movies. He usually gets a stake in the heart, or like with Christopher Lee, they found 1,000 different ways to kill him. Sometimes it's fire, sometimes it's daylight, sometimes it's running water, sometimes he fell backwards and was impaled onto a cross. There's so many different ways to destroy Dracula, and yet he always comes back the next time. The thing of it is that probably Stoker had no intention for this character to just keep coming back and back and back and back and back. He was dead, and that was it. So in that sense, it was okay. But nothing great. Interesting that they did get the he found peace part again. All right. We've been going for 55 minutes. Is there anything about this film that we have not discussed that you would like to address?
Well, I got the candle off my chest, so I'm pretty good.
You're going to sleep better tonight, man. Mike's going to sleep better tonight. He'll be tossing and turning. Natalie's, what the hell's the problem?
What might have helped the melodrama at the end was, that she just made out with Anthony Hopkins maybe 15 minutes saying, "I know what boys want." I thought that again hurt the melodrama, and just was a bit inconsistent with some of the kind of the stuff, the sizzling stuff, kind of took away from that. That's one thing I think was kind of a mistake. But that's it. I think we said it all. I think we got some good ideas all around.
I was worried about getting the Tom Waits in, but you did. So I'm like, cool.
Yeah, we got the Tom Waits. For me, like I said, I started out liking this movie when I first saw it in '92. I wasn't crazy about it, but I liked it because I was like, they said Dracula, and you saw all these names like Anthony Hopkins and Keanu Reeves, and I'm not even sure I knew who Gary Oldman was in 1992. Winona Ryder. I'm like, holy shit, this is going to be something. We go to see it, and you get 20 minutes of melodrama, which 34 years ago really didn't. I was like, okay, like beautiful to watch. Beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
Not sure about the story, but not far from the worst movie I've ever seen in my life. Hold on one second, please.
He's berating the cat.
I should keep some spare socks to throw at the stupid cat when she gets on my nerves. But then I went through a phase where I'm trying to watch this and I just can't get through it. I can't get. And I've tried that many times. Now I've seemed to be in another part where I was just like, let me objectively look at this and not struggle to try to get through it before I even put it in the player.
Right.
And I didn't find it to be nearly as bad as I remember it.
Exactly.
And I'm glad to hear that you're more open to the melodrama.
Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. I'll sleep easier tonight.
That you're getting in touch
My God.
with your sensitive side.
Thank God he said it.
Happy to hear that.
Thank God he said it. Because I would have been texting after the movie. Mike, do you really think that, is it okay, Mike? Are you sure it's okay, Mike?
What else? One other thing we didn't mention was, and as a fan of 90s TV, it's always interesting to point out the lesbian kiss. Remember how wonderful that trend was in the 90s? That was all about, you see it in all the Star Trek shows and things in the 90s. There's always the rustling. Remember the rustling at that time, ECW rustling? But yeah, they snuck a little bit one in there. I mean, it was practically a peck, but they did it for good measure, for good 90s measure.
Katie Frost and Winona Ryder. I mean, the worst things have happened.
Right.
Celluloid,
Right.
Well, she's always in Stranger Things.
Indeed.
That's my Rod moment. Thank you.
All right, so let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the film. This film has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by half. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather post the entire history of my browser searches at my next job interview all the way to 5. This is the journey. This is the destination. This is why I watch films in the first place. Michael James, what would you give Bram Stoker's Dracula?
I give it a strong 2, and I give it a 2 because of the wonderful things that they had going for it, and I felt that they never really pulled it together. It's just something I would never watch again. It's not enjoyable. It doesn't really engross me. It's a lot of sizzle.
Back next week for the sequel?
It's a lot of sizzle and no steak. Let me say that again. All sizzle, no steak, 2. But I respect everyone involved in the movie. They had a lot of talent that never came together.
All right. John K. Alvarez, what do you got for us?
I'm giving it a 3.5. It's not average. It's not great, but it's not average. It's right into that range. I think the visuals are stunning. And from going along with the book and knowing it, when they did it right to the book, I'm like, good, you got that right. That chapter done well.
For myself, I'm going with the 3.5. I think there were strong performances.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was great cinematography. I think it was great set design. Not the best script, but I think in spite of the script, you got some really strong performances. The cast is ensemble. You know, we're talking about people. We didn't even talk about Cary Elwes. I mean, it's not as bad. Cary Elwes is in this. Cary Elwes is always good. He's good in this. We got Richard E. Grant. Now, Richard E. Grant is like one of my favorite, like, unknown actors. Like, a lot of people. It's like, holy shit, it's Richard E. Grant. I remember Richard E. Grant from before this. I think when he was in Henry and June. Philip Kaufman's Henry and June, and he played Anais Hugo. So I've been a fan of his for longer than something going back further than this movie. You got naked Monica Bellucci, gorgeous Sadie Frost, beautiful Winona Ryder. You got a lot of things that are going for it in spite of the fact that the script is not the best. I like the fact, though, that they touched on the Vlad Tepes character. It's the first Dracula movie that I've seen where they've actually referenced that, and very close to the book. So, I'll go with the 3.5. I'm good.
Yeah.
Michael James, plug something.
There is on my YouTube channel, Divine Will Era YouTube channel, there is a radio play audiobook called Reluctant Time Traveling Priest. A depressed priest travels through time. Put it on, listen to it as you sleep, as you do chores around the house. It is a radio play. Okay.
All right, that sounds real good. You know, it's funny. The Hallow app for Lent is doing the Brothers Karamazov. It's really interesting. Interesting.
My favorite character is when Satan appears to one of the brothers and they have these talks back and forth, which is pretty cool. Wait till you get to that. Get to that. Yeah.
Okay.
The best part.
All right. John, what do you got for us?
I sent the thing to you, Mike, in an email, but it didn't come through.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't see it.
No problem. I worked for a living history museum during the summer called Historic Cold Spring Village down here in Cape May. It's based in an 1835 living history museum, and they moved 15 houses from the area to create this village back in the late 1980s. Due to the winter storms we've had, some of the trees on the property has been knocked down. On March 28th from 10 to 4, they're looking for volunteers to help clean up some of the brush. The maintenance crew is doing all the heavy work, but they're looking for people who can come to do help them to load trees on the trucks, do some sweeping, maybe some raking type deal. You don't have to do it for the whole 6 hours, but if you want to come in and donate like 30 minutes, an hour, give it a hand, to help the museum get reopened. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you're getting a hoagie for your work. So anybody who doesn't know what a hoagie is, you missed out.
Shame on you.
Shame on you.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's March 28th, and they're doing it. And I've known the people who've been running. I've been working there off and on since 1990.
John,
the owner one time walked up to me and shook my hand. He goes, "I think you're the longest working employee we have."
John, I'm sorry about that. Resend me the
I will. I'll send it to you. I must have sent it the wrong thing.
Next week. Okay, I'll post it for next week.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so for next week, we will be back to the Coen Brothers, and we're going to be covering a film I've never seen before, which is one of the great things about covering directors like this. I can pick movies I just haven't seen yet. So we're going to be covering Miller's Crossing, which I heard is fantastic, and I'm very much looking forward to it. Mike, anytime you'd like to join us, feel free.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, John. Nice to see you again. Thanks for having me.
Nice to see you, sir.
Yeah. All right, that's it for everybody. My thanks to Michael James at the Divine Will Era channel. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. We will see you. My thanks to Slasher Fred. Good to see you again, man. We will see you all in the next video. All right, take care, everyone.